Here is a question with two completely opposite answers. What do you do when twins are born? Ask that question in Yoruba culture, one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria. And the answer is celebrate. Feed them. Commission wooden sculptures to house their spirits. Give the entire community a feast in their honor. Ask the same question in Igbo culture, another major Nigerian group, living in the same country, and the historical answer was different. Remove them. Same continent, same country, sometimes neighboring communities, two completely opposite responses to the same biological event, and they both had very specific reasons. Here is why it matters that this happened in the same country. This is not about distance or ignorance. The Yoruba and the Igbo were not separated by oceans or mountains or centuries of non-contact. They knew each other. They traded with each other. They shared borders, and yet one group celebrated the birth of twins as the arrival of divine beings, and the other classified the same event as an abomination requiring immediate correction, which means the explanation for why ancient humans feared twins or worshipped them cannot be about not knowing any better. It has to be about something else. Here is what the Yoruba believed. Twins in Yoruba tradition are earthly representations of a specific deity called Ibeji, a powerful orisha associated with youth, vitality, joy, and abundance. This was not a minor belief on the edges of the religious system. Ibeji holds a recognized place among the major Yoruba gods, invoked in Ifa divination and worshipped through specific rituals tied to the welfare of the household. The Yoruba have, historically, one of the highest twinning rates in the world, approximately 45 to 50 twin births per 1,000 births at the peak. This matters. When something is common, you have to develop a relationship with it. The Yoruba relationship with twins was specific, detailed, and completely non-negotiable. Twins share one soul between two bodies. This is the core belief. Not two souls in two bodies, one soul, split across two people, which means each twin is, spiritually speaking, incomplete without the other. And if one twin dies, which, in the ancient world, happened with devastating frequency given infant mortality rates, the surviving twin is now a single body carrying half a soul, a dangerous imbalance, a spiritual wound that had to be addressed. So the family commissioned a carved wooden figure, an Ere Ibeji, a small sculpture representing the dead twin carved from Iroko wood, named and treated as if it were alive. It was bathed. It was fed. It was dressed in cloth and decorated with beads, not as a memory, as a living spiritual obligation, because the Yoruba believed that a neglected Ibeji, a spirit given no home, could bring misfortune to the family. The first twin born was named Taiwo, meaning first to taste the world. The second was named Kehinde, meaning the one who came last. But in Yoruba logic, Kehinde is the elder, because the first twin out was sent first by the second twin to test whether the world was safe. The younger child sent the older one ahead, which makes the second twin the senior sibling. The entire belief system around twins rewrote the normal social order and replaced it with something more complex. That is not superstition. That is a completely coherent internal logic. Here is what other cultures believed. In Mesopotamia, ancient Iraq, the Law Code of Hammurabi and the omen series known as Shuma Izbu catalogued everything that could be considered a bad omen at birth. Identical twins appeared on that list, not as a blessing, not as a sign of divine favor, as what the texts called double monsters. The logic was different but equally coherent. If one person has one face and another person has the same face, one of them is not real. One of them must be a spirit wearing a stolen appearance, or the result of something that should not have happened. Something outside the natural order. A face is supposed to be unique. Two identical faces in the same room is a violation of how the world is supposed to work. Roman jurists in the classical era took a similar position. Legal scholars, including Papinian, classified twin births as unnatural. Pliny the Elder, one of Rome's most prolific writers, linked twin births to strange or divine causes, which sounds like worship until you read the context. In ancient Rome, divine cause was not always good. An intervention from the gods could mean you were being watched, singled out, which was not always comfortable. Here is where it gets interesting. Both reactions, worship and fear, are responses to exactly the same perceived fact. Twins are not ordinary. The Yoruba looked at two identical people and said, "This must be supernatural. Therefore, it must be sacred." The Mesopotamians looked at two identical people and said, "This must be supernatural. Therefore, it must be dangerous." Same observation. Same conclusion that something unusual was happening. Different decision about what unusual means. Anthropologists studying the cross-cultural history of twin beliefs have noted that cultures with higher twin birth rates, like the Yoruba, were more likely to develop positive frameworks around twins. When something happens more often, it becomes less threatening. You build rituals to manage it rather than rules to eliminate it. Cultures with lower twin birth rates had less experience with the event and more room for fear to fill the gap that familiarity would otherwise occupy. The thing you have never seen is always more frightening than the thing you have learned to live with. Here is the most specific detail in this entire story. The Yoruba have a named ritual for what happens when one twin dies young. The family does not grieve privately. Within days of the death, they consult a diviner, a babalawo, using Ifa divination tools to determine exactly what the dead twin spirit requires. What sacrifices, what rituals, what the wooden figure must look like, how it must be dressed. The figure, once commissioned, is not stored away. It is part of the household. It is given food during family meals. It is carried to celebrations. When the surviving twin gets married, there is a specific ritual called Ere Ibeji, dedicated entirely to ensuring the bond between the twins is not disrupted by the transition into a new life. This level of specificity, the named rituals, the named divination tools, the named food offering, is not superstition. It is a legal and spiritual framework with the same internal precision as any written law code. The Ere Ibeji tradition has produced thousands of wooden sculptures that are now held in major museums worldwide. They are considered among the most significant body of African religious art in existence. Here is the uncomfortable conclusion. The Igbo feared twins and removed them. The Yoruba celebrated twins and built elaborate ritual frameworks to honor them. The Mesopotamians classified identical twins as monsters. The Greeks and Romans saw them as simultaneously divine and dangerous, same event, different frameworks, and every framework made complete sense from inside itself, which means the question is not which culture was right about twins. The question is what made each culture decide, out of all the possible responses available, whether the thing they could not explain was a gift or a threat. That decision tells you almost nothing about twins. It tells you almost everything about the culture making it. And here is the part you have probably already noticed. You make the same decision. Every time you encounter something that doesn't fit the expected pattern, you assign it a category, miracle, or omen. Blessed or cursed. The category you choose says very little about the thing you are categorizing. It says quite a lot about what your group already believes. The thumbnail for this video shows two identical figures, calm, surrounded by people backing away in horror. The Yoruba would have seen those two figures and moved toward them, which is one way to put it.